Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Best of Netflix. I actually haven't done a Best of Netflix in about a month with being on vacation and being sick. So it's been a long time coming, but I've got some pretty good picks for you this time, so let's get to it. First up, we have action, and I've chosen XXX State of the Union. Now this is the sequel to the film called XXX starring Vin Diesel, but this version stars Ice Cube. I much prefer the sequel just because they seem like they had a lot more fun with it. They didn't quite take themselves quite as seriously, so I think it's a lot more dynamic in that respect. It gives you a lot more visuals, like it's not just a guy, action junkie who wants to stop these Russian terrorists. It seemed like it was a lot more compelling story with a lot more different elements combined, which I thought was a lot more appealing. It was, like I said, it was a lot more fun. But if you want to watch the original XXX, that is also on Netflix. So either one, both are great films. For horror, I decided to go with Odd Thomas. Now, this one, to me at least, isn't really a horror as much as it is more of a thriller. It's based on a series of books by the same name, Odd Thomas, by Dean Koontz, about a guy who can see a bunch of supernatural stuff. And in this one in particular, which was actually the first book of the Odd Thomas series, he has to try and stop and prevent some disaster from happening. He doesn't know what it's going to be, but he can sort of see it based on the supernatural things that are happening around him. So it's just a really interesting film, which actually stars one of my favorite actors, Anton Yelchin, who I think is extremely underrated. He's in a lot of weird films most of the time, but he's probably one of my favorite actors. For classics, I decided to go with Jurassic Park. Now, although it is technically not in the classics section if you're scrolling through Netflix, either online or on your Apple TV or your PlayStation or whatever you scroll through on, it's not technically in the classics, but if you don't consider Jurassic Park a classic, you're probably insane. It's probably one of the most classic films ever made. It's about dinosaurs in modern times. That's such a cool concept. You have to watch it. If you haven't seen it in a while, watch it again. If you've seen it recently, number 2 and 3 are on there as well, so feel free to check those out. For family, I decided to go with Goosebumps. Now this one is kind of interesting because when it first came out in theaters and they just had introduced the concept of Goosebumps, I thought it was very, very ambitious. It was very, very ambitious for somebody to make a film that encompasses so many various stories into one film. It was very, again, I said, ambitious. But when I finally saw the film, I was like, it's really not that bad. It was probably the best way they could take multiple stories and compact it into one movie. And I kind of hope they make a sequel to this film because I thought it was very interesting. I like the concept. I like where they went with it. I hope some way they can kind of weave around it and make a sequel. It's just a fun kind of family kid adventure. And it pays homage to the people who read the original series or read any of Goosebumps books. And it's extremely entertaining to watch. So I definitely recommend checking this one out. For drama, I decided to do The Weatherman. Now this is probably one of the most underrated and probably one of my most favorite Nicolas Cage films ever. Nicolas Cage is known for doing the very obscure. This film has so much drama in it. It's about a weatherman in Chicago who's going through all sorts of things in his life all at the same time. He's struggling with divorce, trying to get his kids' attention, stuff at work. There's something about this film that keeps drawing me back to it. I can watch this over and over. Most people think it's boring or not really your typical Nicolas Cage film, but I think because it's so true to life and the drama and trials of trying to figure everything out, trying to figure out who you are, your outlets when your life is changing, I think it's really important. So I definitely think it's worth watching. For you binge watchers out there, for the TV shows, I decided to go with Orange is the New Black. This is the Netflix original series about a woman who goes to prison for something she did in her younger years, and she meets all kinds of crazy characters. And it's just a blast to watch. It's not necessarily action-packed or anything like that, but there's a ton of different storylines that interweave. It's almost like if they made a prison version of the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because there's so many various stories that weave together, and it's just really interesting because each episode focuses, well, for the most part, focuses on a different inmate that this woman interacts with, or maybe even herself. So it's just a really compelling story, which I think is based on a true story, or at least a woman's book. But like I said, it's really, really entertaining. It's only got about 3 seasons, I think, at the moment, but the 4th season is on the way later this month. So you have plenty of time to start binge watching now in order to make it to the next season. Now into my documentary pick. This is probably one of my favorite documentaries that I've seen recently. It's not necessarily a documentary in the normal sense of the terms. It's about a show which is called Mortified. This documentary is called Mortified Nation. Now it follows most of a traveling show, but they have a lot of different shows in different cities that called Mortified. What's really interesting about it, it's people who go up on a stage in front of a live audience and they read journal entries from when they were kids. Now these are embarrassing stories, these are hilarious stories, sometimes they're a little bit sad stories because these are personal thoughts that someone had when they were a kid or a teenager, some struggles that they were going through. But I think what's important about it, because there's different people on stage every time. It's not like they have actors reading the same book every time. These are real people who volunteered to go up on stage and read these embarrassing stories that they had written about their lives. And it's so cool because different people have gone through different things, but it's awesome to think about, even though people go through different things, we're still relatable to one another. You're still able to connect with your, not necessarily former self, but your younger self. And you can sort of identify who you are. And I think it's such an interesting platform, and it's such an interesting documentary that I definitely highly recommend this one because it's fun and it's just very entertaining in the way that it combines this sort of strange element and puts it in a live setting. I'm going to be talking about Bo now. Put on your hats. If you haven't noticed, I skipped comedy for the most part of this video, but I saved it for last for a very specific reason. The comedy pick that I chose for this week is Bo Burnham's Make Happy stand-up comedy. Now, this is perhaps the funniest performance comedy I've ever seen in my life. Bo Burnham is a bit of an acquired taste, but he's extremely smart, and everything he says, he does, he sings about, he performs is just genius on a level that I'm not sure most people will understand. But I highly recommend this film, or documentary, or whatever stand-up you want to call it. It's hard to place what it is. It's more of a performance. But it's extremely hilarious. I laughed so hard that I started to cough. And then I laughed even harder while I was coughing to the point where I feel like I was going to throw up. That's how funny this stand-up performance is. I cannot say enough good things about it. Just please go and watch it. It's only about an hour long. Since it came out like at the beginning of the month, I've probably watched it close to 20, 30 times, and I can't get enough of it. I sing the songs, I recite it. It's just such a great performance to watch, and I can't say enough good things about it. Please just go and watch Bo Burnham Make Happy. Well guys, those are my picks for the best of Netflix for this week. Let me know what you guys think about them in the comments below. Like always, thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos. And we'll see you guys in the next one.